I've made over 130 million yen working as an English teacher in Japan over the past 22 years. So in this short video, I'm just going to go into what kind of jobs I did, how much they paid, and how you might get a similar job if you were looking for one. So I came over here on the JET program originally. And back in the day, the JET program was arguably a bit better than it is now. For example, we came over on business class. I think mine was the last year they got a business class flight to Japan. The salary was reasonable at the time. We were paid 300,000 yen a month, so about 3.6 million a year. I was a JET for 4 years. After that, I was able to get a job working for the Board of Education. I was the chief ALT supervisor, so I was in a supervisory role. And for that job, I negotiated a 4-day week, and I was paid slightly more. So I was paid 360,000 yen a month for a 4-day week. And I did that for 4 years as well, until my prefecture decided to privatize its ALT program, so they didn't need an ALT supervisor anymore. After that, I did about 1 year of part-time university work. So I had been working part-time at universities with my day off for the last couple of years. So it was quite easy for me to transition to full-time part-time. And full-time part-time for me was 14 classes a week. They're called koma. And each class paid about 10,000 yen per class. So 14 classes a week, 140,000 yen a week gross. So that's before taxes and so on. After that, I was very lucky and I got a full-time uni job. And I was able to stay at the same university for 13 years as a full-time university teacher. That started off paying about 5 million yen a year, including bonuses and normal salary and allowances and so on. And by the end I was making 7 million. So my terminal salary was 7 million yen at that job. So let's call it an average of 6. And then that finished this year in March. So my final contract ended, the university decided not to renew my contract, and I kind of slipped into retirement, as it were. During that whole time, I've been doing side work as well. Probably the most significant was I used to be a wedding celebrant. This is a kind of only in Japan job. I wrote an article about it. There's a link in the description below. But weddings used to pay between 10 and 15,000 yen per wedding. On a good day, you could do 5, 6, 7, 8 weddings if you're at a decent wedding venue. So as you can see, a very well paid side job. I think I probably did about 800 weddings in all. So let's call it about 9 million yen in total earnings. I've been running my website, Retired Japan, but mostly as a kind of hobby, kind of social contribution thing. So it hasn't made a lot of money. I think I've probably made about 3 million yen so far, and this was since 2013. So about 9 years of work, maybe 3 million yen. Most of it went straight back into the site. I've taught part-time at Eikaiwa schools. That paid between 2,500 and 4,000 yen, depending on the specific job. I've taught private lessons, so not through a school, but directly contracting with my students. And that started at 3,000 yen, and by the time I finished, I was charging 10,000 yen an hour for private lessons. For a long time, I did the Eiken speaking tests. So this is the step Eiken, the Jitsuyo Eiken. And it pays fairly well. You can get between 30 and 40,000 yen per day. It's a 1 day, it's kind of morning and afternoon sessions, maybe 3 hours of each. And that's 3 times a year. So that was a fairly nice little side gig. I've done the Eiken writing examination, so the marking of the writing test, but that really wasn't worth it in terms of time and money. So that paid, I think, per script, I think we got something like 10 yen per answer. So you really had to be very disciplined and do hundreds of these. I think I was doing maybe one every 15 seconds, and that's the kind of pace you need to make money doing that. Material writing, so I've done that both as contract work for a ALT dispatch company, funnily enough, writing lesson plans. That was paid per lesson plan, and also working with a major publisher doing textbooks, and that paid quite a lot better. I did the scope and sequence, it's called, so basically the curriculum for a textbook series for a big publisher. I've also published some books, so a couple of personal finance kind of ebooks, and also textbook series, and that's done okay. I think it's made probably 2 or 3 million yen total off both of those together. Let's do a quick total. So in order of earnings total, university, did 13 years, average of about 6 million yen a year. That's 78 million yen. That's the bulk of my earnings in Japan. I was lucky enough to get a well-paid job and to do it for a long time. And I think that's the key, really, to level yourself up until you can get into a decent position, and then to try and keep it for as long as possible. The ALT supervisor, I did 4 years, 4.3 million yen a year, about 17 million yen. As a jet, 4 years, 3.6 million yen a year, that's 14.5 million yen. Weddings, I did about 800 different prices, but say 12,000 a wedding, that's about 9.6 million yen. That was also very well paid at the time. Part-time uni, I did 1 year, made about 4 million yen. Retired Japan so far, I've made about 3 million yen, but again, most of that's gone back into the website and the business. Self-publishing, about 3 million yen. Writing for other people, probably about 2 million yen in total. Part-time eikaiwa and private students, maybe 2 million yen. And working for the Aiken company, helping out with speaking tests, mainly 1 million yen. So the grand total of 22 years in Japan, 134.5 million yen, more or less. That's well over $1 million if you calculate it with the exchange rates as they were. Right now it's not quite $1 million. And I think the key thing is I haven't been able to hold on to most of that, although I have been investing for the last 10 years or so, saving and investing. But basically, you can make a decent living teaching English in Japan, and the key is to work hard, level up, try and get better jobs, and do a variety of different jobs, and always have a little side hustle if you can, because often the side hustles will grow into interesting opportunities as well. So if you got any questions about teaching English in Japan or working in Japan, or especially saving and investing in Japan, feel free to pop them in the comments below. There'll be a few links in the description, so I'll link something to an article I wrote about the weddings. I'll link something to an article I wrote about teaching English in Japan, and of course a link to the Retire Japan site itself.